In my vision, I feel like Deepin, AI, and all of like DeFi should be like transmitting into like traditional AI, like Web2, like product design, where users kind of like see the familiar words, but on the back end, there are absolutely different things happening. Right now, I see like the main problem in the decentralized AI. First of all, decentralized AI doesn't have shitload of compute yet, which is not making like a bunch of AI researchers flowing into the industry. It doesn't have as much money as traditional AI right now. Like, there is not like the surplus of resources right now for researchers to move in it.
This is where we're going, and this is what we want to get to, and this is probably what's going to get the adoption and the users, like you say. And in the end, if you don't get users, you're not going to win.
No, not just the users, but I would say the builders. Like,
Yes.
Aaron is a perfect example of like IoTeX and Deepin Scan. Like, I love Deepin Scan, and Ripple was fun. It's honestly, it was like early time back then. I was working on their product design. They've been like trying to scale up and actually like talk with their clients, and no one really like was kind of like understanding what Ripple is, because like they build it with the narrative of like US companies and US problems within like payment ecosystems. It was really cool, but Ripple wasn't as it is right now back then.
So now with Trump, like Ripple seems hot again. I saw just on Coinbase that Ripple had a bigger volume than Bitcoin. Like with the news and what's happening with Trump, this might be a crazy journey that like all these Ripple holders have been holding for years now. Like in the end, they were right after all. That's like crazy. The most entertaining outcome always happens in crypto. Like as Ripple is a perfect example for that.
Are you bullish, Lean?
Yeah, I'm genuinely bullish on the whole market. The only one thing I don't really like with the whole market is when you see that a bunch of people are holding for the sake of holding when the price is going up. It seems like they don't really care what's like going on.
Let's get this started, because I think there's like we have way too many good minutes already before we even got started. Love it. Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of the LP Roundtable. This might be the last time we call it LP Roundtable because we are considering a new name. LP Roundtable has always been a work title, let's say, but if you have any suggestions, please drop them in the comments, and maybe next episode we have a new name. But today we have Leanid from Network3 with us. Let me know if I say the name wrong.
Yeah,
but I think
you
I'm
got
correct.
it correctly. Yep.
Thank you very much. And Aaron, like always, like the past few episodes and the upcoming ones as well. Aaron from IoTeX, the Deepin legend, who is hanging out in Washington, D.C. these days with the regulators. So welcome, guys. Welcome to another episode. And Leanid, thanks for joining us. I'm looking forward to learn more about whatever you have been doing, because Aaron has been telling me a lot of good stuff. Maybe just to get started, could you tell us a bit more about yourself in a few lines before we dive into decentralized GPUs and AI and layer 2s and all of that?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, my name is Leanid. I'm a senior at UC Berkeley studying finance and data science. So I always been in a Web3 space since probably like high school, when I kind of like explored some ERC standards, Bitcoin, like Bitcoin Lightning. It was like hot time back then when I got into that, and I was like pretty curious about how like you actually can own some parts of your applications, like how smart contracts are written. So that's how I was always taking part in different geography Olympiads. So I'm a big geography Olympiad guy in like international ones, and then absolutely different pathway from like blockchain world, but I think that's kind of like what helped me to kind of like be explorative. And
what's a geography Olympic?
Oh yeah, it was like my last year of high school. I was like taking part in. It was, I think back then it was in Istanbul in Turkey, is an international Olympiad. So it's like
Is it like,
you
is
just.
it like GeoGuessr?
It's like you have a piece of land, you have 30 minutes, and you have to figure out what you have to build based on its location, economic factors, social factors. Like I remember I had like a project, like a interesting like solution tasked, and I needed to come up with like a solution in like 20 minutes. There, I had like a piece of land with old building in the outskirts of Istanbul, and I had to like accommodate like 10,000 people, and I had to like kind of like come up with calculations. Okay, how many like stories it should be, how many like apartments should be on the one floor, where's the water is gonna be coming from, what's like the schools gonna be located. So it was pretty interesting, because like it's kind of like helps you to think more like spatially, not like being like considering different factors at the same time. So that was all my like previous experiences. And I got into Berkeley. I moved to the US. I grew up in Belarus originally. I worked on like crypto payment processing, where like we've been like integrating into different wallets, and we've been doing absolutely decentralized version of Stripe and Square, basically, where you can deploy your payment processor on the edge device, like on your server, and you can host transactions for your business, and you can basically see the analytics and accept any cryptocurrency, or even like create your own testnet token to interact with your clients. I was for some time at Ripple, at XRP, and then I joined Network3, where we work on a decentralized infrastructure, building the infrastructure for edge AI. So we specialize in distributed computing, how we can like leverage your IoT device, which is like your computer, your desktop, or even your phone, towards contributing bandwidth to the AI training and AI computations. So that's about me.
Okay. Damn, that's a lot of topics that I would love to discuss. Aaron, where should we start?
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's start general. So maybe tell us about what your general thoughts are on the market right now. What are the things that you're excited about?
Yeah, great question. I feel like the market is hypey right now, and I see a lot of fresh builders coming up on a bullish market to build, and that's probably one of the mistakes I'm seeing, because like nothing is built in the bullish market. Everything is built when no one really needs you. Like in a way of like I'm just saying like, oh, like the price is high, let's build. But it's like people who've been building when no one needed you, when the Bitcoin cost like $22,000, and it's kind of funny when like I opened my like Gemini exchange, and I saw that like back in like 2022 or like beginning 2023, when like crypto market was so boring, I saw the average price I purchased a Bitcoin, and it was like $22,000. And that's kind of like insane that like, okay, right now we're like traded around 100,000, and like we can go below 100, we can surpass 100 like 5 times on a day, and no one will ever like talk about it right now. So it's kind of like a casual activity right now. So I feel like a lot of people come in in the industry for the sake of not building, but just leveraging it to kind of like make money. That's okay, but I'm more on the side of a builder, where like you actually do your research, where you actually kind of like contribute, and you get rewarded for the actual utility you're getting to the whole industry. And I don't know, like I see kind of like the line between Web2 and Web3 is becoming more transparent, kind of like, because previously it was like such a big gap where like you just have Web2 and then you have like Web3, and there is no like bridges between them. And now I see like more and more like projects are trying to kind of like collab, work, like help Web2, or like Web2 is seeking some solutions from a blockchain, which is kind of interesting. Like California DMV, they are offsetting the car titles on the blockchain network, and no one really knows about it. I don't know why, but like this was like past the summer, like end of July, that like they basically DMV, you can like is using blockchain to store the car titles, and it's kind of like pretty good innovations if like the government tech is using it. So I am pretty bullish in regards of like applications which are gonna be built. In regards to the price, I don't know, like in like, because I studied finance and I was like analyzing a bunch of like 10Ks, like cash flow statements, and I was like, we have a multiplier to basically calculate the market cap. I don't know what type of multiplier right now is in the crypto markets, and I don't know if it's like definable.
Maybe multiplier.
I mean, like in the traditional finance, you kind of like can see what's your market cap based on like your free cash flow, and then you take a multiplier, and like which is industry standard. And I was kind of like yesterday talking with my friend, and I'm like, oh, what's a multiplier is for most of like crypto projects? Do you take their revenue? Do you take their transaction fees? Do you take TPS per second? But like TPS per second is not like a good standard, because like it's just like some metrics. So it's like, or
That's
like daily active users.
Users is usually what like in the VC world is probably being used, and then there is this scale of how much is a wallet worth, and that goes between, because there's a bit of information.
Yeah.
Like there is this margin between like let's say $400 and $1,000. How much information is linked to that wallet? That's the value of that wallet, and then that's how a valuation is actually defined. But that doesn't mean much because, for example, taking Hamster Protocol, the tab game on Telegram, for example, 2 million active users, raising at an 800 million valuation. Yes, and then you go to the market, but there's no one to support that valuation, right? So it's a metric that doesn't really make sense, but that is actually what's probably coming closest to a metric to be used for the defining a valuation.
Yeah.
Super
Or you
interesting.
just use the metrics of like builders, but then you have absolutely like you have just some projects which allow you to build on top of them and they never interact with the user.
Exactly.
So it's pretty interesting, and I would say it's really hot and interesting time to kind of like be exploring and be very open-minded about the tech and blockchain in general.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take, and I think there's probably a lot that can go into a calculation or some kind of a calculation in order to make that multiplier. And in Deepin, you're seeing projects actually making revenue now, but I don't really see that reflected necessarily in the price. I don't think it's really being factored in the valuation of these companies, and I think that should carry a lot more weight than it is. Like you see some companies making millions in revenue, but the valuation doesn't reflect that in comparison to some of the other, even within Deepin. So yeah, I think people should be revisiting, maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe this is just all speculation based at the end of the day.
After all, it's all speculation, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just because in a traditional finance, it's more like institutional. I mean, like, yeah, you can come up with your own multiplier. But the price is not really gonna move in terms of a market cap. I mean, like, if you're like just a retail investor, but somehow like in the Web3, everything is like open ledger. You can trace everything. You have Twitter where everything explodes like insanely. So it's very interesting fact as I see like and it's kind of interesting when I'm explaining it to someone and I'm like, oh my god, like it's kind of insane.
There's probably a correlation to be drawn about the attention on Twitter, for example, and the valuation as well. Pretty much, that's how I assume you can sort of see what's undervalued, what's overvalued. But then again, that's another metric that can be easily gamified. So it's just a marketing thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the professor called Dawn Song. I took her DeFi class last semester, and what I built basically Twitter API calls, been sending a request every like 10 minutes to check the new tickers. And the new tickers were correlated to the meme coins or like a new project. And basically I was just filling up the database with all of the new tickers which being created. And then I was sending a Twitter API call to see if like there is a mention and it was constantly been like for loop counting like how many like times it was mentioned, and if I saw that the mentions were increasing within like 3 consecutive like time frames of 15 minutes, so within 45 minutes we saw like a drastic increase. So it's a good sign that the hype is coming around some project or token. And basically I built like I need to open source it actually. It was a pretty cool project.
Or you need to tokenize it. If you look at Kaito, for example, right now, like everybody's talking about this yapping scoreboard, and it's also just a data analytics company that's hinted about a token, and now everybody is.
Yeah. I mean, like, and it's kind of interesting times because, like, you can come up with like, you can honestly just go to ChatGPT, to basically any AI tool, and chat about like, what are the problems in the industry, what are the solutions. Let's work on the solution. You use O1 model. You basically just can fine-tune the model by like offsetting a bunch of data sets into the model, say to the model, learn by itself, and you can basically chat for the whole day and build the whole product. Like you can go on like some design like tools, you can go into like
Is the one.
Yeah, Rapid I like, and it's gonna be you can deploy the whole UX UI like Claude, like, or you go to Cursor and like write the code. Like I use Cursor every freaking day, and I think like in the last like 8 or 9 months, I haven't coded without AI tools at all. Like not in the way I ask AI to write a code, but I'm just asking, hey, revise my code, write the comments to my code, or like optimize my code for a better efficiency. Or if I'm facing some mistake, I'm just like, hey, debug it for me. So it's like, and I feel like I probably become more like disabled in a way of like self-sufficient coding, but it's just like those tools are in my life and I'm forever going to be using them.
AI is not going anywhere, man. Like even the editing of this video, right, Rik? You're gonna leverage some AI too. It's an
Yeah,
amazing
that's
thing.
awesome.
It's an amazing thing. Yeah, there's
I don't think you're becoming disabled. I think you're becoming more productive.
more enabled.
100%.
Yeah, more enabled for sure. Like figuring out how to use these tools, which tools to use for what. Like that's what ultimately is gonna get you go to the next level.
Yeah, I think
Increased
the next
productivity.
trend for the next year is like the local models and like local large language models which can run the inference and performance on your device, where you can like interact with like some sensitive data which you don't want to share to the centralized solutions, like your documents or like. And I've been showing to my classmates how they can be deploying like 13 billion model on their just MacBook and basically chat without the internet, and you use the compute power of your device to basically generate the response, which is awesome. And I feel like a lot of people underestimate the power of it. Like, and it can write a code. It's like, it's basically like a model which works pretty well for your needs, and it can write you emails, and you can like play on the integrations into like your daily applications. So it's
So
awesome.
Leanid, I love the idea of that. Do people actually use it? When you tell them about it, do they take away and start using it, or do they not really care about the fact that it's running on your computer versus?
Say it's like some people are using it. I mean, the issue is that there is not like a good product design, because like, I mean, you can enable it like start with the local host, you can like host the web UI like interface, but most of people just deploying it. You have like a terminal, you just chatting in a terminal with a model.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not really saving, like, and it's even me, it's like, okay, cool. I mean, like, I will run, but like, I'm so much better off using ChatGPT or one model because I have the internet. Like, if I'm in the field, sure, but how many times I've been in the field? It's like maybe I had to use like local LLM like 2 times over the span of last like 4 months, and it's not a good trend.
I was
But
just
like,
about to ask, has anyone built an interface to do this, or to easily do this in a sense that you don't have to use a terminal? And also, when does this problem actually show up? Like, I can only see that in a plane I would need it or use it. In a sense,
yeah,
that's
it's
the only
more.
place where I miss internet.
Or if they're very focused on privacy potentially.
Yes.
It's a future solution for most of projects which are for trying to build their fundamentals models, not like build but fine tune those models with their data and build like a cohesive models for their business. And the main point is that like when you're either a lawyer, you're a finance bro, you're a doctor, when you're interacting with the stuff which cannot be outshared from your computer, or the data needed to be destroyed after using it, like that's an awesome solution. I was chatting with yesterday at 11 p.m. after the Broadway show. I came back to Berkeley to help my like friends at the startup competition I'm kind of like mentoring, and they've been talking how they're trying to develop individual educational plans for kids who have autism, and the way how they must use AI over here, they cannot use any centralized solutions, because you basically upload in all of their like test scores, you upload their essays, you upload their medical data, and it's like you need to have a part of federated learning and private computing for each student, because like you can't like just send a request to like OpenAI API and just say, hey, do it for me. You have to like do it in a private individual way. And where like blockchain meets AI is a perfect solution, because in this case you have three parties. You have teacher, you have kid, and you have a parent. All of them need a private key to basically access the data and retrieve it. You can store it, for example, in Filecoin, wherever. You can store data in any decentralized like storage unit. But the point here is like, you always have a data retrieval, you have your private key, which always accessible to you and only to you. So no one will ever be able to access this data. And you have a way where no models will be trained on a data of your artist kit. The model will basically be fine-tuned just to get a response, to you and develops this plan just to you. So, and I was like, oh yes, that's actually like genius use case, because like you fully compliant with all of like with all of the compliance in regards of the medical data, in regards of like the educational establishments, how they can be sharing, like, so, and it's definitely like gonna help not just models to scale themselves, but like just this like custom integrations, because everyone want to build their fundamental models, everyone want to use a private compute, everyone want to like give as much data to about their customers to learn about the insights, but there are no way to do so like in the private environment yet. And I see how people are just starting to realize it's a big trend and it's a big need. So, but in regards of like, if you're just a consumer who need to run the sequence of like several questions to get a response, even I would say just go and use OpenAI O1.
But
it's gonna be.
Yeah, I totally agree with it, but I think that that's the direction we're going. You saw NVIDIA recently announce as well that they have this new chip for focusing on consumers, I think, for this literal purpose, right? That people can actually run models locally. Like also with fully self-driving cars and all of these things, you cannot have a car rely on having to go to the cloud and back to do some compute or whatever. It has to run locally. So it makes total sense. I'm not very technical on that sense, but I think I understand what you mean with the direction we're going to. Is this is this the same use case, or are we talking about something else here?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, if you try to touch into like more like this trend is, if I got it correctly, it's like your computer, your desktop basically sits like 19 hours on idle, and those resources are absolutely unused, and you have a missed opportunity for or like unearned revenue in regards of like, you have a really good internet connection. For example, like my GPU over here is constantly plugged in, constantly has internet connection, and I can just like host a model and users can like try to run the inference on my model, or like my GPU can constantly be working and uploading the stuff to the blockchain and like to the demand side of like the ones who are trying to train or fine tune the model. So that's kind of like the model where like you have the stuff which you can leverage, and Aaron is a perfect guy who actually knows the most about it in regards of like not just like GPU DePIN's, but GPIN's in general. So Aaron, if you want to share a couple cool DePIN use cases, would love to hear.
Yeah, we can use this chance to talk a little bit about Deepin. So you mentioned before talking about how there's the bridge between Web2 and Web3. And the use case that you mentioned was the DMV in, I believe, LA, right? So this is like more of the sort of going to the government or enterprise use case, no token. But I definitely think there's potential there. I was teaching lectures on this stuff back in 2019, especially for the supply chain use cases, but really hasn't come into fruition in that way. I think people get excited when there's speculation and potential to earn money. I think that's what's fueled the other types of DePINs that have come about. As on the other enterprise side or government side, it really takes either lobbying or some internal efforts to make that happen. There's no one really clamoring for it. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Deepin. There's some incredible use cases out there. And what IoTeX is really focused on right now, obviously you guys are both representing Deepin projects and Deepin projects on the IoTeX ecosystem. One thing that we launched just last week is Bino AI. I don't know if you guys have seen it or come across it on Twitter maybe. So it's an AI agent that's trained using Deepin data. So the number one thing that we see of Deepin projects that they struggle with is finding demand, the demand side of the equation. I think you guys are pretty well suited that you don't necessarily have as big of a problem there, but it's definitely going to come. Basically trying to compete with the Web2 counterparts and other Deepins that are trying to do similar things. But what I'm trying to get at is this AI agent that we're training, it's really a way to unlock some demand for Deepin data. So right now, for example, you can go to Bino AI and this AI agent and ask it what real-time weather is right here in Vancouver, and you'll get the results based off of this Deepin data that's flowing through. And we're trying to get more and more integrations in here. There's actually a token that goes along with it as well. It's called Sent AI. So if you look up Sent AI, Sent's for sentient, you can go and see it's like at an $8 million market cap right now. So this is one of the things that we're working on. And I think there's going to be more and more opportunity for Deepin and AI to work hand in hand. And just to bring it back to NVIDIA and is the Consumer Electronics Show where Jensen Huang did a keynote speech, and he talked about physical AI. I don't know if you guys have seen that image that's been floating around. Yeah, it's been quite popular, and I have a take on that. I'm going to have an article coming out pretty soon here to talk about it. But the next phase that he sees for AI is physical AI, and that includes something like self-driving cars. So I see Deepin really fueling the next wave of AI. And like I said before, AI is not going anywhere. So this is our chance to leverage Deepin in order to fuel the future of AI. And I definitely think that you guys both are with Qualoo and Network3 could be a part of that future, and that's what we're trying to do with Sent AI and Bino AI. So looking forward to get those integrations in and working with you guys on that.
I love that, like taking the data of all these Deepin networks, putting it into an AI. And I think, like you say, with this physical AI, all these data points that we are achieving thanks to Deepin, because like we all know that thanks to Web3 and Deepin technology, we can get the community to participate and decentralize the network in a sense and reward them. Like it's all because those tokens exist, right? That you can get people excited to own a piece of that network. But then indeed, like you say, like the self-driving cars, that's so valuable data all around the world collected by people who earn by it as well, to then being plugged into those, let's say Teslas, or let's say robots, or let's say whatever else use cases coming out on the physical part. And yes, these Teslas that have been driving around for the past 5 years have been collecting data, but it's a lot of data that they have been collecting, but it's not that data that people who plug in a device at their home are collecting, or all these other data points that they have not. Like, it's so valuable to get that all around vision for these physical AIs, because we are going to a point in the world where we are going to be surrounded by robots. And I think that's closer than we actually think.
I agree. Yeah. You look at the schedule for the Tesla robots, they're coming for sure. And you mentioned that people aren't earning for their Tesla data. That's actually wrong because of a Deepin project out there called Natix. They have a 360-degree camera or device that's coming out, and it allows you to take the data straight from your Tesla and send it to Natix, and they're accruing all that data and ultimately rewarding the users for that data. So there are opportunities now for you to earn for this data that you're pulling in, and that's what makes Deepin so exciting. And ultimately, the companies that are going to use and leverage that are going to be these self-driving car companies that are going to need that spatial data.
I have a question though. If like people then sell that data they collect with a Tesla, and then the project that's collecting this data, they can go and sell it to Toyota, is Tesla going to be happy with that? Is that a way? Because that's not really fair, right? Like,
that's
I would not be happy with that as Tesla.
I think it's way more fair. But what I don't think is test, because it opens it up so that any company can have that data, whether it's Tesla, whether it's Toyota, whether it's Honda, whether it's like some up and coming startup. I think anyone should be able to have access to that data, and right now it's only Tesla that has that data. So I actually think the opposite. I think it's actually making things more fair and more decentralized. Is Tesla gonna try and figure out a way to stop it? It's possible, because they want to hoard that data.
I mean, I have to say two things. First of all, Tesla is a Deepin company with their cyber taxi, where you basically buy a car and it's just gonna be driving and earning money for you. So you're literally making money by like outsourcing your physical device, like, which is awesome. I don't know if they're gonna put it on a chain, but we'll see. Second, I'm actually curious why some of my classmates from Berkeley, they flew out to China for their winter break, and I'm seeing a bunch of stories that they're like showing me the Chinese electric cars with autopilot, which actually is better than Teslas, because they're saying like you don't have to like steer at all. It's just like, and my friend who drives Tesla, she flew back to China and she said, oh my God, autopilot is actually pretty good. So I don't know how they train their like autopilot, but it's also kind of curious like that there is a strong competition for like Tesla in terms of like EV market coming from China, and I feel like if not the tariffs in regards of like you can sell like Chinese EV in the US, I don't know how the market would look like. But like this general like industry, like it's better for the industry to have a better autopilot for everyone. In my view, like it's like no one buys Tesla for the sake of autopilot. Like, as I see, no one buys a $50,000 car to pay $8,000 for the autopilot just to drive on autopilot. Like I have seen zero of those people who actually like purchased an autopilot. And those cars, which like, as I see, like people are selling the used Teslas. They purchase a like lifetime self-driving for $8,000-$10,000. The price difference on a used car market is like you sell Model 3 for $30,000 and you sell the Model 3 with a full autopilot for $33,000. Like $3,000. It's like people are not actually willing to pay more for just like having this autopilot. So it's like it's not the main selling point for that.
So I think the price is probably gonna go down quite a lot. That self. I didn't even know that was the case, that you gotta order that or buy that self-driving.
Yeah, you can make a subscription of $100 a month, and I actually owned it for some time. Like they gave me 1 month for free, and then I purchased a subscription, and it was awesome. But I was like, yeah, I use it like 2 times in a week. Like
it's pretty cool, man. Like the over-the-air upgrades, the fact that you can just upgrade from this is all over the air. There's no hardware pieces there.
Yeah. No, you just like you from your app, you just click in, and it's like
it's so
3
cool.
minutes and you go in. I mean, the only one thing I don't like in like general like car market, what's happening right now is like I think BMW and Mercedes been doing it is that you have to unlock some features. It's like in like EQS Mercedes, you have to pay like a subscription or like 300 to 400 euro to increase the angle of turning radius of a back wheels, and it's gonna be driving more sharply. And I'm like you basically limiting what you already have, starting from like, or BMW had their like heating seat subscription, and I'm like, what the hell? It's like,
well,
I don't know.
Just think about it this way: any SaaS model out there is doing the exact same thing. They always throttle their top. They could offer the top package to everyone for the same price if they wanted to, but they're intentionally making these different packages because they know they can make more money and more revenue in the end. So you can criticize it, but I actually think it's pretty smart. I think it's pretty cool.
It is pretty smart from a standpoint, but then I'm looking at
not for you, maybe not for a user.
Like
it
for
can
Tesla,
be annoying,
yes.
but yeah.
For Tesla, well, yes.
No,
for
autopilot. I mean,
companies,
autopilot. I feel like paying for autopilot as a subscription, that's fine. But when you like charging for like heating seats, that's not the way how any company should be shaping. But like, I'm okay with paying for autopilot. It's like it's a whole research team working on it, and it's like it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it just unlocks new revenue models. I think it's really cool. Back in university, I think it was my 3rd year business class, I did a presentation talking about the potential to bring SaaS to like the automobile industry. And I ended up working in the automobile industry actually. I built this AI engine that predicts what vehicles people want to drive next based off of their current vehicle and their what other vehicles they've previously owned. And then we sold that into over 200 car dealerships across Canada. And if you ever get an email or text from any of these car dealerships, it's from the product that I built at this point. And from working and speaking to these different automobile industry or manufacturers and also to dealerships, they're just looking at different ways to make revenue, because at the moment, like the financing is not doing that well. They're basically just making like a few grand here or there off of cars. And then especially during COVID, when the used car market, I don't know if you guys remember, but went kind of crazy, where the used cars were basically worth the value of new cars because it was so difficult to get new cars. So the automobile industry is going through some crazy phase over the last little while. And then just to bring it back to Deepin, they call vehicles or cars the computer on wheels. So there's so much data points that this is bringing in. So I mentioned Natix before, Hivemapper with their dash cam.
Demo.
Exactly, and Demo. Demo's pulling all this data. I think at this point, Demo is definitely one of the more successful DePIN's generally. I think a lot of it was timing based, but I really want to see how they're able to actually find that demand for their data, because I think that's one of the areas where they haven't done as well. So we're working to integrate them as we speak with Bino AI. So we're able to pull some insights, and even weather data you're actually able to pull from these vehicles. So I think there's a lot of different use cases that we can get out of there, but the problem is finding the demand. So we think that the AI agent, just because it's kind of a trending topic, I don't know how long it's going to be a trending topic for, but at least we can connect some of this Deepin data with users, whereas in reality, a lot of the Deepins are struggling with that right now. So yeah, just to bring the automobile thing back to Deepin, I think there's a ton of potential there still.
I think these AI agents, like all projects are going to have AI agents in one way or another. If it's going to be for data analysis in the background, if it's going to be for marketing, if it's going to be for customer experience, like there's so many ways that these agents are going to be plugged into each product that like we don't even see them as agents anymore. It becomes so obvious and so normal to have an agent popping up, starting to talk to you. What do you want to do within an app? And then like you just say, I want to do this, and the agent takes you to that place or whatever. Or like, I want to know this. That's where like in a year from now we probably are. From a Qualoo perspective, for example, right? Like how I see it now, it's like, yes, we are going to collect all this data from all around the world. 2 years ago, you would build algorithms to figure out certain things, right? Right now, it's just going to be like, hey, agent, crawl this data and figure out where is this little bit that's not how it should be. And boom, you have your report. You don't even have to go and click anymore. You have a data that does this. You have data that comes in 24/7. Have your agent that analyzes 24/7. And with all these data, with all these Deepins, and like you say, Hivemapper saw a tweet recently that they mapped 30% of the whole world now. Like, and how long have they been mapping? 1.5 years, 2 years max. Like, it's insane, right? Like, it's not gonna take long before they've mapped the whole world, or like at least 90%. That's crazy data, and that's like, I think that's data that's going to be kept updated as well. But then it's not going to be a human who is going to keep that up to date. What's the latest and what changed? Like, it's going to be agents in between all these data sets that come in. Yeah, these agents, like, it's right now it's hype because they can talk on Twitter.
But yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah. So obviously it's trending right now, and a lot of the tokens are trending right now. Do you predict that? I think it's going to be used. They're going to be used still. I'm agreeing with you. But like, what about on the token side? What about? Do you think it's still going to continue to rise, or do you think that there could be some interesting tokenomics models? Because that's where I see maybe there could be some good usage here, but I think it's going to require some really interesting tokenomics models to allow the AI agents to thrive.
Yeah. I think the agents we see now is speculation as just it's a next step of meme coins. Like, yes, meme coins were fun because anyone could launch them and people like make their own stories and speculate on it and they get the attention. And then now there's these agents that are new, right? It's new, it does something new and people are excited about it. So they buy the token, but like, what's the value behind it? It's really not non-existing. Like, yes, some of these infrastructure plays like AI16Z might make sense because the builder is actually creating this framework for a while. But then again, like, okay, how far is this going to be taken? I think like that could be something, but like it ends up like, again, where is this question? User experience, how is the platform going to look like? Who can build on it? Like the builder experience and the user experience itself. And I think like before we started this episode, we talked a bit about this, like what's the user experience going to look like for both sides, like for the builders as well as for the users. And right now that puzzle hasn't really been solved yet. There are ideas, there are people trying to build this, but we're not to that point. You want to add something, Leanid? I saw you not.
I feel like we are all super early in the game in a way of like, it's like AI been here less than like 3 years. AI been like since 1972. I feel like it's like it's not and machine learning. It's like it's interesting because like a bunch of like local environments for AI computing is like you can find the papers from like 2005, 2008. It's like there was no such thing as blockchain back then, but there already were like pretty pretty decent AI papers, and you still can go and find and like see, you can learn from like a 20-year-old machine learning paper a lot of cool stuff. But still we are super early in like user adoption and like getting the users actually to use it. And it's like, and sometimes I feel like we are all in a social bubble in a way of like, I'm in Berkeley, I'm surrounded in the Bay Area, and like I hear AI agent probably like 15-20 times a day. Like,
I live on Twitter. I hear the same.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes I feel like if you actually go and step out, and Aaron is living in Washington, D.C., talking with politicians about advocating for Deepin. So it's like, Aaron is actually the one who is faced with the real world, who actually is stepping outside of a bubble and talking to like actually like people in power who who absolutely have no idea what Deepin is, what distributed computing, how it can be shaped, what AI agent is like, and it's probably even, it's like, if you're gonna go outside and just interview people, what is AI agent? Most of the people will be like, oh, yeah, we don't know. So, Aaron, how was the experience talking with non-native blockchain users?
I wanna touch on the agents a little bit more, like add two more comments. I do think like the agents right now that we're talking about that getting the attention on Twitter are very comparable to NFTs, where that you had some of these grail NFTs like the CryptoPunks, for example, right? They will always stay a symbol of the NFTs craze and of the NFT revolution that we had, of this new piece of technology that got people and hype behind it. But 99% of these things that came out back then went to zero, right? But you still have the CryptoPunks that have this culture, that have this story behind it. I feel like there's these agent coins right now. Some of them will turn out to be the CryptoPunks of AI agents. And that could be GOAT, that could be AI 16Z. We don't know yet. But I think that's where these hype agents right now are going towards. But again, like a lot of them don't have any value. And the second point was, it's like in Web2, AI agents have been a thing for a long while already, right? Like I've also been working closely with a guy who's trying to build like combining Whisper and then into a product. And then in the end, it is sort of an agent for yourself. That was 3 years ago. Now what crypto figures out is, or 2 years ago, what crypto figures out is, okay, you can give these agents a wallet. Now suddenly they can transact value. So you can get this chain of agents, but like we haven't really built that infrastructure yet. People have been doing in Web2, like using multiple different agents for different purposes already for quite a while. The only thing is they had to be the human in between linking those agents in their own process. And I think that's potentially where crypto can come in. Or maybe that exists already, I don't know, in Web2, that you can combine different agents to get to certain outcomes. But I think this value transaction layer is just a new thing that we are figuring out how to value it, how to combine it. And I think that's probably what's going to bring a lot of value to the agents, but it's not these agent coins that's going to have the value. It's the infrastructure behind it that's going to be valued.
I think the most value right now, sorry, Aaron, the most value right now are bringing the users who come in from non-Web3 experience. They're like there's the highest valuable user, I feel like. Because like you don't really get a value from like a user who is like in 100 ecosystems like, yeah, but it's like, it's kind of like a human bot. They're just there for like financial incentive, but the users who come in to explore to find real utilities, that's like the juice.
What do you mean?
Imagine a person coming who always used like Web2 products, who just flowing into like blockchain and setting up the wallet just because they're trying to play around with some AI agent. That's like where you have the completely new user flowing into the ecosystem. Yes. You don't have a user who just coming from one project with already like loaded MetaMask Phantom wallet of different tokens into just your ecosystem, where you have an absolutely new user who just set it up a wallet, who's still not getting some of the stuff, but coming and learning with you. That's like the new user, but not like a new user in the sense of like a new user into your ecosystem, but the new user into the whole like ecosystem of blockchain.
I agree. Yeah. I think for those new people that come in, those agents are very valuable because they can sort of being a sidekick in a sense. They can hold your hand and say, okay, deposit your money now, and what's your next step that you want to do? And those users, if they use an agent as a sidekick, they won't click on a wrong link like uniswap.org instead of Uniswap, right? And get their wallet trained, because those agents are trained on which protocols to use if they want to buy something, and they're not going to put in a wrong CA, for example. So in that sense, I think for newcomer protection, agents are great. Maybe someone should build a tool like that with a whole onboarding flow, explaining what is blockchain, what are different blockchains. I'm going to use these now for you. Here's how it works. I will always be here for you to do this for you through a prompt. But if you want to do it yourself, go explore. But make sure to watch this, this, and this. That's an education that took us probably a year to get through. Maybe even a wallet that got drained throughout the line. And I think that's now a thing that can be overcome thanks to these agents if someone builds a tool of infrastructure and a front end like that. So
yeah, we always talk about how we're going to onboard the next billion crypto users. And I definitely see Deepin as being an awesome way to do that just because of its accessibility. Like all you have to do for some of these projects is download a Chrome extension, download an app, and all of a sudden you're earning tokens. Like that's crazy. And it's all done in a very Web2 feeling way until you go to sell your token and all of a sudden I'm onboarded to Web3. Here we are. And even like the login can be done through using things like Web3 auth, just like Google sign in. It's all feels so easy for users. And that's why I like Deepin so much.
And you don't even have to touch a token, right? Like could be
exactly.
just points in an app that can be like, you can earn points that you might convert to tokens, but you can still spend those points in an app just like Web2 apps ever did. But you get affiliate fees, or if like, it doesn't even
100%.
have to be Web3, but we leverage Web3 in a sense of the technology and the onboarding to distribute the network.
100%.
I mean,
and then
DePIN
just to bring it back
simple.
to AI agents, it's the exact same thing, is that this can open the door to onboarding a lot of users. So that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about it. And I think there are, like I mentioned tokenomics before, let's see how the tokenomics of this develop, because I think there is an opportunity for, I think we talked about it before, AI agents paying other AI agents and figuring out how to accrue all this value somehow. I think there's some exciting things that can happen. I think they were just in the very, very beginning of this agentic AI, which will eventually turn into physical AI. So really excited for the future there. And I think Deepin's going to play a huge role in it.
I mean, one important aspect is Deepin is pretty simple to understand for just the basic user, in a way of like, you feel connected to the things which you have, and you see how you connect your device. You kind of like basically have an understanding, and like you don't need much of education in terms of like I'm connecting, like I'm just getting the data, I'm getting paid for this data in terms of like my, for example, car. Makes perfect sense. Like that's like, and I feel like Deepin is probably one of like the most like Web2 oriented ways in blockchain, like, because like, I mean, real world assets is pretty interesting as well.
Yep. Yeah, so to bring it to what we talked about before, being the bridge between Web2 and Web3, and that's exactly why I see it as the bridge of Web2 and Web3. It sits perfectly in between, and RWA in a way as well. And this is one of the things that played very, very well when talking to people in Washington, D.C., to answer your question from before, Leon. So when I was there, they were basically fixated on stablecoins. So there was this bill, the FIT21 bill, which ended up not passing. Even though it got through Congress, it didn't make it to the Senate. And I think there are a lot of external factors for the reason that happened. Because at this point, from everything I'm hearing, they're fully on board with stablecoins because they see it as a way to export the US dollar around the world, especially when they can start regulating and saying, these stable coins need to be backed 1-to-1 by the US dollar. They are huge fans of that. So all I'm trying to say is they understand stable coins very well. And they don't understand things like Deepin. They have zero idea what that is. So for the first time, I'm able to tell them, not talking about any of the tech, just going straight into use cases. Things like, I'm able to lower the price of food in your jurisdiction for your constituents, and they eat that kind of stuff up. And then I'm able to say, I can actually put passive income into the pockets of your constituents, and they eat that kind of stuff up. It's ultimately that's what their goal is, to make their constituents' lives better. And I think that's what Deepin's able to do, bring value back to the users and to those constituents. So as soon as I mention that, it definitely piques their interest, and it allows me to start getting into the spiel about all these different projects that are building out there, doing some incredible stuff. And another, just to talk about Leanid, what you guys do at Network3 for a second, the compute. So that is actually something that they understand as well, but they don't understand the Web3 potential there and how it all works together. So I actually think this is a great time to talk about Network3 and the problem that you guys are trying to solve.
And before you start, can you maybe clarify for the audience what's compute and what's inference? Because I think both of these terms are quite relevant when you're going to explain the whole gist of it.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks, Aaron. Kind of like talking about coming back, like how US dollar and the stablecoins are tied together. And it's kind of like, I feel like the new administration probably will be like pushing a lot into like, because it's a big geopolitical move when like the whole ecosystem is still tied down to the US dollar. Like all of the projects which are built not in the US will be somehow connected to the US dollar, either on the stable coins perspective. So it's like you still have a decentralization, but you still have a hub where everything is like kind of like the policies are tied down or coming from. So it's pretty exciting times. Like, Aaron, great job for you in terms of like coming, talking, chatting, getting to know the different like perspective, advice. Like you're one of like people who actually kind of like pushing the industry in the right way and like advocating for it. So, and that's kind of like what we all need in a way of like, everyone can be pumping up their market cap, everyone can be like hyping it around, but like you need like very structured, very like understandable and like related policies and position in like in the society, kind of like what Deepin is. It's not just like a white paper proposals and some like transaction happening like between each devices, but like how it tied down into like every citizen like of any country. So great job.
Yeah, I have 2 articles that came out actually in the last 2 weeks. Ever since I was in DC, there's been a bunch of interview requests, people trying to get an understanding of what it's like on the ground there, speaking about crypto, speaking about Deepin. So I had one article in Be in Crypto and then another one that was on the front page of Cointelegraph. And I basically go into one talking about the crypto regulations in general and all of what I'm speaking about there. And then also the uniqueness of Deepin being that bridge between Web2 and Web3. It is such a unique place because they have this real world revenue coming in. And that's why, again, regulators get so excited about this in a positive way, as opposed to a lot of the scams that they think about when they think about crypto. So really it's trying to get that out of their mind and start getting them to understand, wow, there actually is a ton of potential here. And then once they understand that, they really start understanding some of these different types of models out there, some of these different projects. And once we have them on board, it will help to standardize and bring this space to the next level. I think that we're definitely approaching that. And just to final thoughts on the political climate, January 20th is the inauguration, and it's very, very clear that even Trump aside, the right is all in on crypto at this point. The constituents of the US are all in on crypto. At least that's how they showed it with their vote. More than 50% voting for a crypto agenda. And then also a good portion of the left is also heavily into crypto at this point as well, for those reasons of stablecoins that I mentioned earlier. People have different ideas about it, different ideas of how it should be regulated, and that's what I talk about in my articles. Huge debates that can be had, but the bottom line is that something's needed there, and I think it's only a matter of time before something is going to be on the docket there, and I think it'll be in the next 100 days.
Yeah, awesome.
Prediction in the next 100 days.
Yeah. At least
yeah.
At least they're going to bring back the Fit 21 bill. At least that's my
I saw an article today or a tweet today that speculation about that Trump is gonna do that on day one or something like that. So maybe we don't even have to wait 100 days.
There you go.
I mean, it's super exciting times, to be honest, be in this space right now. And it's like, I was giving a talk on like Berkeley Startup Bootcamp. I took a like couple semesters ago. Just this time I came as a mentor, and it was kind of interesting to just see like that. Like 2 years ago, people were like, blockchain cool. And now I just see like people are trying to tie down like blockchain into like most of the applications just for the backend. Like, and I'm like, wow, it's like people who never been like into that are moving in, trying to understand it. It's like we are on a really good, like, we're in an awesome spot where we have new users coming up. We have a builders building. We have good policies aligning. So just all of the conditions are playing well right now. So yeah, Rik, in regards of...
We're finally getting away from just speculation. We're bridging the gap. I love that.
Yeah, LFG, yeah. Yeah, in regards of compute and inference, so inference basically stands for like when you ask something, any AI model, like write me an apple pie recipe, and the point when like you send the request, the inferencing process happening when you basically asking your AI model to generate the response. So it's the statistical like probability happening by tying down like by decoding your letter into the number and then connecting it to the parameters in the model. So, but in a simple way, inferencing is when the model is responding to you, and computing is when you try to train the model itself, but by putting down like different layers of your model with like different data sets with the different parameters, and you're trying to like build the whole like new foundational layer of like of the new parameters of the new data into the model. Like fine tuning is when you basically dictate your model how the model should respond, have some patterns of responding. So like fine tuning is a very lightweighted version of computing. A RAG is when we basically just retrieve like certain pieces of a text. So and it's all suited perfectly into like, and we all use it basically every day. The amount of RAGs I use in my responses is insane in amount of like when I like ask ChatGPT something, it's like basically every response is kind of like a RAG from some article. So yeah, in regards of a Network3, I mean like the main like 3 points I would say for us is like transparency in regards of like we have a proof of workload in terms of like accountability of a GPU resource allocation. So it means like GPU marketplaces are absolutely useless if there is no like verification and proof of like, and Deepin scan is actually doing a pretty good job in regards of like verifying Deepin devices that they're like true, that they're not like falsifying the system. So we have a pretty good scalability. So we are surpassed 600,000 nodes. Each node is responsible for sharing the bandwidth. So users are keeping those nodes active. What they're doing is basically we can be users keeping their node active, and we can be offsetting the computations on those nodes, or we can like run the decentralized inference on those nodes. So it really depends what are we trying to do as a goal. And the other aspect is...
Leanid, I just want to mention one thing about verification of devices. I want to use this opportunity to throw like a little bit of dirt or shade. I don't know if you guys remember IONET and some of the fiasco that happened there with apparently scamming investors to say that they have more devices than they actually did, and the CEO ended up stepping down shortly after all of this came out. Verification is very important. Verification of data is essential, and that's what we're definitely trying to do at Deepin Scan, is try to be this verifier of data. Like, you kind of need a third party. It can't really happen from the project because it's difficult to trust unless you're putting it on chain. So either way, I think it's essential that projects are doing this.
For the
and
IONET,
that's awesome that you guys are doing that with us.
I think IONET these days is making quite a lot of nice revenue though, but I think they also were like a bit of they fell for the hype and for the high valuations, etc., and then the valuations compared to actually the amount of GPUs was not really related or in sync, and that's I think what, like, if the verification was there, that discrepancy would not have been there. But like I think they're on the right path right now.
No, yeah, I agree. This all happened around 8 months ago or something.
Yeah,
like
8
that.
months ago there was a situation like
yeah.
So I definitely think they're on the right path. Fair enough.
Like
but
I saw this. So
Network3 does something similar as IONET, right? Or is it a different product? Because Network3, I see it's a layer 2 for AI. I assume what's the layer one is IoTex. Can you tell us a bit more about the whole setup, the whole ecosystem? What's the use cases and what's the direction that you're building towards, and who are going to be your users, builders?
For us, we have a bit different like revenue stream model in a way of like we are seen more as like a data layers than just the GPU marketplace where you can just rent your GPU. And data layer means that we are working right now on a marketplace for AI data sets. So you can be like, we can generate a synthetic data set from the existing nodes which are sharing the data. And so without like sacrificing privacy, we can be like basically providing a bunch of data where users can be putting into their models when they're like trying to train them. That's like pretty cool product we are working on in regards of like, you have an open source marketplace. You will be able to trace where the data is coming from, who was the data owner, and like how the user got paid for the data they provided. So the other aspect we're using is like federated learning is the other part is like, if you're trying to offset the training, usually how it works is that you get all of the data accumulated in a cluster in a room which is clustered of GPUs, and you're trying to train your models with the data located right there. And it's cool, but you always need to send this data. You have to like basically store it. You have to clean it. You have to do a lot of work in preparing your data. But what we are trying to do is basically train on the data which is located on your edge device. So we can be, and it's what federated learning stands for. So we can, for example, like do some data labeling of the data you can provide for us, and we can like train locally. So, and that's why you have a lower latency. You don't need like a centralized server for like computing. You still can be constantly running the computing on your desktops. You actually providing like actual utility when your device is just plugged into the socket and it's constantly like just constantly running the computer. So running the training by itself, and you don't need like a person sitting and like actually watching it. It can always be happening in like all of the devices like constantly. And that's kind of like the model where you have some more users, the more like utility you're bringing. When like you have 3 computers, it's not a big deal. When you have 1,000 computers, that's a bigger deal. When you have 10,000 desktops, it's actually already like meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the amount of IoT devices we have, and it's like in the scale of like, even if you scale like 10,000 desktops around the globe, it's probably gonna do nothing. If you scale like 1 million, it's already like a much bigger deal, and it already starts to be like compatible with like existing like, so like we're never gonna be a competition to AWS, GCP, Azure, but the way is like you have a privacy enhanced in the ecosystem, so you can be like training on your proprietary data, so you never will sacrifice any data points. So I would say our main like customer is not like the user who's using AWS right now. Like if, and it's kind of like if user been using AWS, GCP, Azure, they always still will have an account. They always still will be like running like building their foundational models. It's like the business which already like consolidated, and very unlikely users are going to be turning around from like Google to just interact with some like projects like us. But what projects probably will be doing is kind of like expanding on like when they want to learn more insights about their customers, when they want to like get some different data points in regards of like, okay, we like one of the recent tasks I think we did with public AIs, we were trying to get the images of dogs to train the network of like where to train the model, which will be like which gonna be getting like images of dogs, but from the specific angle to basically be able to kind of like detect what type of dog, and like, so it was pretty cool. And I feel like that's like the use cases where like users from blockchain can be just like providing the insane value and be getting paid like up to like $1 in terms of like just for one image of their dog. So and users like never really understand like how much value is like big companies are getting from them. And we are not like a Robin Good here, like, oh, let's take from like big company and like give it all to like other people. But I feel like there should be a certain like consensus and way where like your data can be monetized. You can like be like, not like your data can be monetized, but your input is monetized. And that's important. And that's what Deepin is solving. And that's what we are solving as well. So, and also like one aspect is like edge computing is so much more energy efficient because like you don't need like this huge clusters of GPUs. Like a lot of research is happening right now because like how much water is used to cool down the servers per each ChatGPT request? Like it's not a huge number, but still, if you look like okay, like 1 million people running Respawn like within a day, it's probably not a big deal. But when like you got like billions of users using like just one solution a day, you also have a super high dependency on those like on those products. Like, and just check it like when like OpenAI is not responding for like 2 hours and you have API calls basically not responding for 2 hours. Imagine how much money you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're like and that's why you need to have like a way where you first as well ensures that your network is going to be stable. And it's like the best part, you cannot shut down it on a blockchain. It's like once you hosted it, it's going to be forever there. And it's like everyone can trace it, everyone can like use it. And that's like an awesome aspect of the industry.
What's the difference in cost between like choosing for a decentralized solution like Network3 versus the already existing Web2 solution?
It really depends what exactly you're trying to do in a way of like it's absolutely inefficient to train large models on distributed compute. Like it's if you try to train a huge like models like Llama, like you're just better off staying with a cluster of GPUs located in one room because you still will have latency between those GPUs, but it will be much less than like latency between a distributed network. So like, but the cost wise, it's like edge computing is cheaper because you leverage in the idle resources. Your main costs are just like the transaction fees of the network you're trying to be on. So, because like you paying users, but you paying users basically for the free compute. Like, the device was plugged in and like previously, and it's still gonna be plugged in like while they're running. So you just have to cover the electricity fees for them and pay them so they see and they actually have a meaningful passion to keep it on. So actually, in our white paper, it's pretty well explained how the rewards are used in the game theory are distributed to you. So because it's not just like your power, it's like how your internet connection, is it good or bad? Are you willing to provide your data? Are you what type of GPU, what type of CPU you have, how much memory you have. So it's like, it's a lot of different factors which come into that. So
how do you test the internet quality?
Can I just ask one question as well?
Yeah, sure.
So I just want to make sure I have this down. So it sounds like there's basically 2 products essentially that you're offering. One is the decentralized data, and then the other, which is like the data layer 2 stuff that we're talking about, and the other is like the compute power.
Yeah. So
just want to, and then I just want to follow up by saying, it sounds like the data part is going to be the revenue driver, and that's your main focus at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the third product, as I mentioned earlier, that's I'm kind of passionate about is to build like the fully like decentralized inferencing, like where users can be running it on a node of each other, and I'm just pretty excited about it.
And that's still not started that yet, but it's kind of
not yet. So, but
yeah,
coming soon. So,
got you. And then
yeah, we might launch a local LLM for the sake of just seeing how users are using it. Kind of like just it's coming along. So I was just testing the local LLM. We can just launch a model which will be able to perform like inference while you're running the node, just to see if users are actually interacting or not.
Yeah, I don't see why not. It'd be a great, like, at least POC just to spin one up, and maybe that's somewhere we can collaborate too to make something happen. Maybe it can be in conjunction with the Bino AI Sente AI thing. But I want to go back to the decentralized data. So it sounds like this is your focus now. I'm just curious around the revenue side and contract side. Do you have anything in place at the moment? Anything signed? Is there, obviously seems like this is going to be the big driver for you guys.
Yeah, most of revenue is coming from the VPN services, like from our Web2 business. It's pretty good numbers over there. It's because it's like an IP pool, so where users can be leveraging like different IP addresses and like so. Okay. So most of revenue right now is coming from our Web2 business.
Okay, can you talk about the Web2 business?
So it's been a VPN services. It's the product of our founder of Rockgiant.
Right.
So
yes.
he was building it, and the way how Network3 got created is kind of like expansion of VPN services, and the users. And it's kind of like the users from VPN services been flowing into the Network3 and expanding the ecosystem. So the data marketplace, it will be tied down into like a cross-ecosystem collapse, I would say, and like very high interoperability where the users from one ecosystem can be leveraging like from one project can be coming to us and providing and basically publishing the data which they accumulated. So other product is which I was kind of like discussing is AI agent marketplace, where users can pre-train the model, like fine-tune the model with their local data, and they can basically publish this like AI agent on the chain using like Network3 like data and Network3 compute. That's also like gonna be like connected to this like data marketplace. So that's what we kind of like looking for the middle of this year to launch.
And then so it sounds like you've got a couple of offerings to the actual users. So we mentioned the compute on the side of selling to, I guess, companies and the data selling to companies. But then on the user side, you have like the app that you can download. And then you also, you call it an app, I guess. And
then it's an app, and it's also like works as a perfect VPN. Like, because like you can be leveraging like different IP addresses because it's coming like from our Web2 business. So it's users just using it for a lot of services like VPN.
Got you.
And I think like you guys actually, like some of your team actually once said, hey, our VPN was down and we like deployed the like Network3 node and it worked like as a VPN. And I was like, oh, yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. It's not just, there to scrape data. You are actually providing a benefit to the users. So I think it's definitely, and that's the reason why you guys have such a big user count. And what's the current user count again?
I think it was like 602K, 603. So.
Yeah, it's like over 600,000 users now, which is absolutely incredible. And then on the GPU miner side, it's called the N3 Edge V1 device.
Yeah,
just over almost 6,500. But it sounds like this is not really the driver. Is there any additional benefit that this is providing? The hardware device?
As of now, I would say the main focus is going to be like delivering the products, getting the actual like announcing our like customers and like the demand side. And 3 Edge, those mining hardware, it's gonna be expanded. It's giving you like high rewards. So, but right now we have like 7,000 of them on the chain, like 7. Yeah, I'm looking right now on Deepin scan. Deepin scan is such a good
Share
tool.
your screen. Show us. Can you share your screen? I would love to see that. What you're looking at.
Let's see. Sure. Yeah, screen. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, so we are over here, and the map view is 603. Aaron, how many people are working on like Deepin scan? Because you guys are like getting so many projects and like so many update stuff going on.
Yeah, so we've switched to a self-integration method now, so the projects are actually able to integrate themselves, and it's obviously made things a lot easier. We're not out there hunting projects at the moment. They're just doing it themselves. We've gotten Deepin scan to the point where it's the projects that want to be there. It's not us that's trying to source them. And it took a decent time to get there because you need to get the big boys there for other projects to want to come. And at this point, the big boys are there. But the team is probably consisting of around 5 people with me like running the product side. Now hitting 400,000 page views a month and growing. And it's actually really interesting to see. So as you see the Deepin market grow, the number of page views grow. And I'm looking at that data every single day to try and optimize things and bring in new sources of data and try to expand to different sectors as well. So trying to pull in the RWA crowd. You see the new AI tab, trying to pull in the AI crowd AI agents. I think that's something to take away for any DePIN's out there is, SEO is super important. And so is expanding beyond the realm of your community and the subsect of Deepin. And the way to do that is start to look at those, I'll call it parallel markets. That could include also like the passive income keyword. So we've been hunting that pretty hard. That's where you start pulling in the Web2 crowd, right? So working very hard to do that and continue to expand the user base of Deepin Scan so that projects like both of yours get as much traction as possible.
No, yeah, that's awesome.
I guess this is a great opportunity to talk about the question that you had, Rik, is how are you guys testing internet quality? Because Qualoo happens to be experts in that area.
Yeah, I heard Leanid mention something about internet quality, so I was like, how are you testing this?
Just like the speed of the network, how well is your internet connection? So like the download speed, upload speed, and like your ping, which is your latency. It's like if you have like higher than 100 ms, you have really bad network. So there is also like the jitter, like the variation in this time delay, but mostly like it's like upload and download speed, like how much stuff can be like transmitted throughout you. That's like.
And do people with a good internet get rewarded better than the ones that don't have good internet, or do those get skipped in a sense that they're not being used for their GPUs because they're too slow? Is that like a reward?
I mean, it's kind of like users with good GPUs always have a good internet connection. It's very rarely that you're gonna have if you have a very high-end GPU and you're gonna be having a bad internet connection. And it's kind of usually you have a very bad internet connection with a very bad device. So it's like it's a positive correlation on both ends. It's like bad internet connection, you're not really like in any way. It's like if you had an awesome internet connection, you still wouldn't be like actually providing. So it's like
okay, no, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So
I have two more questions which are kind of not related to what we already discussed, but you touched twice on XRP or Ripple before, and we've been talking about AI quite a lot now. And last week I heard this argument that actually XRP or Ripple could be a great chain for AI. And the argument was because XRP is created to replace Swift, and to replace Swift is actually, it's a combination of value transactions like money with a text message combined. Now you have AI, large language models, and what are they good at in registering and studying? It's language. So the argument was made that Ripple with this value plus text message are actually much easier to read for LLMs, and therefore there's potential in Ripple for AI. I would love to hear your opinion on that, because that was kind of eye-opening for me to hear this, and I got the argument, but I'm not sure from like a tech perspective and like an AI brain mind, like, is this real, and what could be done with this?
Yeah, I was at Ripple during like a bit more than a year ago. And I was working on their product design and like basically some aspects of their product. I mean, I would say it's pretty interesting just to see like how things can be turning around, because like even a year ago, everything was so different, absolutely different. Like it's like you were a product which no one really been like seeking for and needed, like in a way of like, and everyone was like shit talking about you, and now you're like everyone is praising you and saying how. So it's like, it's pretty interesting dynamic. I would say there were like some aspects in regards of their product design, which were like how to build a unified product for not just like US, but if you want to build a payment like Swift replacement, you have to be like adaptable in any country, within any culture, within any ecosystem, within like any language. So it's like users will know how to use you. So there are like a lot of aspects related to that. It's pretty, I mean, tying back to stablecoins, which Aaron mentioned in regards of like backing by the US dollar, it's also like kind of interesting, like geopolitics, like in regards of like how XRP is going to be like shaped. Like, I mean, XRP is a US based company, basically. Like they have XRP Ledger. I like that XRP is not trying to like build and go into like different applications. They're just focusing on a payment for businesses, payment for banks, like having this like institutional like focus on like payments, which I feel like a lot of blockchain projects are trying to like cover a lot of things which are good in early days when you're like trying to like get your product market fit in regards of like, oh, I want to build this, I want to build this, I want to see traction here. If it works, we're gonna shut it down. Ripple is pretty straightforward, and I feel like they have really good advisors picking them up and just saying do this and it's gonna work. And that's what we can see right now happening. Like they're just focused on payments, on this like cross-border transactions, and it's working pretty well for them.
Apart from what Ripple or the Ripple team is building, like that XRP ledger itself, there's AI builders starting to build on top of that. Like, is that a thing?
Yeah, I saw their CTO like 4 weeks ago, like before 5 weeks ago, he came to our DeFi class. He said that we just like he said from his personal perspective, they don't want to build anything. They just want to they don't want to build any extensive applications. They just want to be focused on the business they're doing, and which is honestly at this stage is pretty strategical and really good application. Like cross-border payments, straightforward. Everyone understands, and it's like the way where like you actually can be getting a good like institutional Web2 traction.
That makes sense.
It just
For anyone listening that's interested in that take that I just said, I'll link the stream in the show notes where I got this. I think this was a Thread Guy stream with Alexander Good, who is building this Ripple. Like he came with that argument, and I was just like, wow, interesting, but I cannot validate because I'm not that tech-minded or AI developer-minded. But it was just a compelling argument, so I liked it. And I also love what you say, that Ripple is focusing on the thing that they are building, and we'll see where that gets, right?
Yeah, I don't think like their ecosystem is very widespread. I mean, they're focusing on kind of like having a very solid like contracts with like big players in a traditional finance, and that's the way to go. I feel like, and especially like since they're working very closely with government, it's a very
they're putting a ton towards that.
Yeah. So,
and then maybe my last question is, what are you excited about coming up? Like we started the conversation with, are you bullish?
I'll make a quick bold prediction for
Aaron
myself
this
related to, yeah, 100%. We'll definitely all hook up sometime soon. I think, guys. Next event. Well, there's Hong Kong, Denver,
Hong
San
Kong.
Fran, Toronto. One of these we got to hang out, guys. One of them. Oh, and then if not, then Europe is going to be Paris, I think, in July. I just want to make one quick bold prediction related to XRP, and I saw it this morning by our head of community, Joey. He said that the little run that XRP is on right now, this 20% in the last couple of days, I think that it's going to spin around to the Dino tokens. So some of those old tokens that haven't really seen anything jump for a while, we saw around a month ago a quick spike of XRP over a little bit, and then everything else started pumping. All those Dino tokens, we call them. I definitely think this could happen again. So keep an eye out over the next week and let's see if it happens. Maybe next 2 weeks, if some of these older tokens that were spiking 3 to 4 years ago are going to spike again. That's my prediction, not financial advice.
I tend to agree with that. I think that makes total sense, but I also think that this whole XRP run is fueled by Trump coming up with also the CEO of Ripple having talks with Trump like 6 days ago or whatever. And then you have this Ripple being a US-based company with a token XRP ETF, right?
Huge driver.
Like probably XRP ETF is coming before a Solana ETF, while we've been talking about a Solana ETF for the past year. There is quite a lot of potential catalysts for Ripple, and it is the most looking bullish chart from a technical aspect as well, if you look at it TA. On top of that, Ripple's volume on Coinbase was higher than Bitcoin's volume today. I mean, I think things are aligning, and yeah, good flow into the dinos for sure.
Yeah, I think it's probably the token that's most tied to the regulations. So, you see positive news about regulations. This is the token that generally seems like it's going to pump. So I agree.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So anything else you're looking forward to, Leon?
Yeah.
Honestly, except meeting you, I'm just kind of more on the side where I'm looking to see like really cool products being delivered. And like more like not just like products, but like the way where you can deploy and you can like actually see the like companies can be like very high valuation companies can be built by like a couple of people only. So it's kind of like what I'm like seeing right now, and it's just like having like where innovations can be produced by like really by high inputs, but with very low amount of like people.
Like a Pump.Fun, for example. What's the next
Yeah,
milestone gonna be?
like how many people like did it? It's like
Super small
big was
team,
it? Yeah,
young guys, super small team made
mid
how
journey,
much
it
like
was
it's
literally
yeah,
like
exactly.
5 people. Like so, it's like and it's kind of cool. Like that's, I feel like I don't know. We should like have some like measure on like impact per person you're producing, and I feel like the right now we are at the point where we have the highest impact per person ever in the history, and it's kind of interesting because like we see how the impact each human is producing is constantly like is increasing with the amount of tech coming up, with the amount of like what you can say in terms of like you can go and publish, you can go and like build, you can go and like just like go to the hackathon and you can build like some cool product in 2 days, and you can like basically turn it into your full-time job and like be working on it. Like it's and I don't know, like the excited things I'm just excited is I feel like I learned a lot machine learning, a lot of like coding from like a perspective of like fine-tuning the models just like by chatting with different AI tools, by like reading some books. And I'm reading right now this The Singularity is Near by Rik Aaron, and it's like it's awesome, and it's just like I feel like I I'm super excited by like the amount of like available knowledge over here and how you can like just use any AI model as your like mentor and like stay super connected to the like being disciplined with those like models where they actually like learn really well about you and just accelerate your thoughts and like your knowledge is awesome. And I hope a lot of people will get it, because I still see like that people just use AI models for like, hey, write me this, but you can leverage it like really well.
Awesome.
How about you guys? What are you excited for?
Yeah, I want to use a second to just talk about Network 3 and like a little call to action, as well as Qualoo. So if you guys go to network3.io, you can start earning Network 3 tokens simply by downloading one of their apps. So if you go to network3.ai/download, you can download on Mac, iOS, or Android or Linux, and go ahead and start earning just like that. And also there's, like Leanid was saying, some VPN services related to that. So it's not just, data that you're being scraped. It's actually utility for you as a user. And then I want to say on the Qualoo side, you guys are doing some really interesting stuff. And I think it's genuinely a unicorn potential company. And those are very rare to come about. I genuinely think that between the team that's there and the problem that you guys are trying to solve, I think the problem is big enough that it can be $1 billion company, and the team's in place to be able to make that happen. So I think it's only a matter of time. I'm the biggest Qualoo fan out there. Maybe, Rik, do you want to talk about how you guys are trying to solve the problem of fixing the internet and what's wrong with it?
So we will have a spaces, and we're recording this on Wednesday. This episode, it's not going to be out by the time that me and Aaron are going to jump on a Qualoo partner spaces, and I would love to have Network3 and Leanid there as well on another one, and one of the upcoming ones. But yeah, Qualoo is trying to solve the internet by distributing nodes, physical nodes, but also the app. So there is multiple data points that we collect information, and then that we can measure that information, how good is the internet and where. And like you've seen on Deepin scan, there's different maps where you can then see like where are the nodes deployed, where are the nodes, and where are the nodes collecting data. And on the back end, we can then see perfectly where is good internet, where is bad internet. And with that data, users can see where should they go if they need good connection. It can be from a very specific place, hotels, Airbnbs. It's also very relevant data to bring to these telecom companies so they can invest in a very specific place, so they know where to improve the internet, because many times it's very small things that actually mess with the whole internet connections. And before Deepin, it was never really possible to actually map the whole internet in a sense. And now we don't even have the app out. It's coming within, I think, 2 weeks now. It's coming very close to waitlist users, which are now 12,000 people, to start using the app. And we have 60 people testing now, just friends and family. And with just these 60 people, we already have more data than Keith and the others ever collected by doing what they've been doing for the last 15 to 20 years. So Yeah, it's exciting to start seeing, like, we see the map growing, and I cannot wait for this app to be out to start seeing all the data coming in. And like you said, like, it's gonna be fun to have an AI agent crawl there and have and post about that. So that's something I'm gonna push about as well, to have a Qualoo agent. I think that's
100%.
gonna be fun. That's gonna be a cool marketing gimmick, but it's gonna be great.
Yeah, when you're ready to do that, let's chat, because like we said, we've already built one using Elisa Labs ACDAO's infra, and we kind of did like a partnership with them. And we're also kind of repurposing WebStream, which was our originally off-chain compute infra, to sort of pivot towards this model of AI agents and being able to spin up some AI agents based off of Deepin data. So I think there's a perfect opportunity there for us to work together and make this happen. And like you said, I just want to backtrack a tiny bit to what you're talking about of trying to fix the internet of countries. You guys have already done that. So you've already proved it out in certain case studies. I think it's only a matter of time now before you guys expand to some other countries as well and start fixing the internet. And that's a real problem for countries. So the demand's there, and I think the potential is massive.
Yeah, and like every day I'm more and more impressed by what's actually the potential. To be honest, like, I was listening into an investor call this morning, and yeah, they threw some crazy things that that will like, go and follow Qualoo. You'll see what's coming.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna spill the beans.
I think you guys should be posting about those case studies like all the time. I think they're so valuable. I don't think I've ever seen it on Twitter, but I know you guys have them. I want to see it. I think the market, and now you guys got a decent user base, at least on Twitter. So I Discord, I believe. Do you guys have a Discord? Not yet.
Yes, we have. Yeah. I think we've collected 45,000 people in total now. I think it's 15 in the
Awesome.
Discord, 24
nice.
on Twitter. And
just be shouting from the rooftops about these case studies, because I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you guys are actually proving that you have the team in place and that can solve these problems, and that's the biggest thing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. It's exciting times, and I think that's also what I'm most excited about. It's the evolution of AI agents, and it's the evolution of Qualoo in 2025. Yeah, the sky is the limit there. So, guys.
And just one thing I want to mention is this one. It's like, if you want to like just learn more about like distributed computing, like decentralized like AI, we got a pretty cool case studies like in terms of our white paper and like how it's all executed from a technical perspective, and we also have a really good, cool economic model for like a business use cases. So it's all like published on Network3 website under the resources, so you can like check it out and educate yourself.
Awesome. Okay, guys, just a disclaimer, as always, nothing said here is financial advice. We are just sharing our own opinions. We're sharing our knowledge. We hope you learned something from what we shared. We don't give any financial advice. We don't say buy a token. There is also only IoTeX has a token. The other two don't. So there's nothing you can go and buy yet. Who knows, right? Guys, appreciate it very much for this deep dive into Deepin and AI. Aaron, I'll see you tomorrow on our spaces or a live stream as well, so that's gonna be fun. Leanid, was amazing to have you. I would suggest keep your ear on the ground in the Bay Area, because that's where everybody is building the shit that's coming soon, right?
Yeah.
And that's not ending up in these AI models. So I cannot learn from these AI models what's happening in the Bay Area. You will have to come and tell us on the next episode.
Come over, visit us over here.
I will. Thank you very much, and
awesome.
See you on the next one.
Absolutely. Perfect. See you all, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.